Hi, and welcome to the Celiac and the Frog. I am the Frog. Today, we're looking at the 10-day sugar detox diet. Now, I've got up here on the screen the picture of the book by Dr. Mark Hyman. I would highly recommend buying the book. I bought it before I did the diet, and I read through and studied up on this a lot before I ever started the diet. I would highly recommend doing that. To be clear, we're not an affiliate. I make no money off of this. I just really enjoyed the process, and I've actually adopted a lot of his processes and certain things from the book into my regular everyday routine, and that I really like, and I want to share those with you today. Again, overall, the diet was a huge success. I lost almost 7 pounds, right at 6.8 to be exact. And I would recommend adding this to your diet portfolio. This is not the only thing to do. Lowering sugar is great. Having a lower sugar diet is what works for me. It works really, really well for me. It's helped me to drop some weight, but it's one piece of the puzzle. It's not just lowering sugar. It's not just carbs. It's not just saturated fat. It's not just exercise. It's all of these things and many, many other things all rolled in together. So this is one particular component. And again, I would highly recommend buying the book and adding that to your diet reference library. Now, I did this diet after losing 50 pounds. But the reason, and the primary reason that I did this was cravings. I was having a pretty significant issue with cravings. And what I discovered by doing my research and looking at this process was that I still had a fairly high amount of sugar in my diet. I'm gluten-free. I've shared that with you, me and my wife, the celiac, the princess. We're gluten-free by necessity because she has celiac disease. But I realized that even being gluten-free, a lot of that food has a lot of sugar in it and a lot of other things that we don't necessarily want. So it can be sometimes hard to find gluten-free foods that don't have high levels of other things that I don't really want. So I realized that my sugar was too high, and my sugar intake was too high. So I had to correct that. And this was a really good fit for that problem. As always, I would recommend talking to your doctor before taking something on like this, especially if you have any underlying issues. But before taking on anything drastic, you always want to consult your physician. I'm not a physician. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a guy sharing a story. But again, this worked for me. As I've said in some other videos, I would also recommend doing this and really any other diet or any other health change. I would recommend doing it with a buddy. It's important to have a support system, and we don't all have support systems, and I completely understand if your support system is maybe not as good as some. But it's very important to have some sort of community. And Dr. Hyman actually does have a social media community around this book and around this process. So that may be something to look into. I was a little bit nervous, a little bit apprehensive, but again, as I began to read the book and look at some of the different facets of the diet, I began to see that it was going to be very manageable. I had a little bit of apprehension about having enough to eat. Was I going to be hungry? Was this going to be a diet where I wasn't going to have the volume of food that I really needed? And I found out really quickly within just the first couple of days that really wasn't an issue for me. I had plenty of food to eat. It was the right kinds of foods. My body was absorbing it in the right ways, and it helped me with my cravings. We do a fair amount of batch cooking and meal prepping. So that helped me out as well. Dr. Hyman lays out a lot of different foods for different days. And I'll be the first to say that I did change up some of the things and change up some of the regimens that he had. But what I didn't do is I didn't add anything that had sugar. I may eat the same thing 2 or 3 days in a row instead of making a change day by day like he suggests in the book. So I didn't take anything and add something in a negative way, I may have duplicated day by day because we're simply used to doing in our house. We're simply used to doing meal prepping, and I'm used to eating. Sometimes I'll eat the same thing for 2 or 3 days in a row. It's for simplicity. It's for time management. It's for, lowering my stress for having to cook and provide food for myself. So that helped me in a number of ways that may not be a thing for you. I didn't worry too much about cost. Now, I don't want to say that I was just, I went crazy with spending, but I didn't really worry too much about, buying the ingredients and things for the recipes. But what I did is I tried to make sure that I didn't buy anything that I would never, ever use again. There are a handful of things in some of the recipes that I just knew that I would put that in one recipe and I'd never use it again. So I just eliminated it. I just didn't use it in that particular recipe so that I wasn't being wasteful. I tried to cut waste as best I could in different places. So that may be something to think about as well. Not saying that you have to do that. It's just a thought. What I did find though, with a lot of the recipes, it was things that I really, really liked. And a lot of them were things that we kind of already did anyway for our meal prepping and our food prep. And it was just a little bit of a different spin. And there's a couple of things that I've kept in my everyday routine. One of them, and I'm not going to go recipe by recipe. I'm just sharing some of the highlights of the things that I liked about the diet. But one thing that I did adopt and I still use on a daily basis is his breakfast milkshake, primarily as a vehicle to get more protein on board for me on a daily basis. But I really, really liked that breakfast shake, and I kept it, and I'm glad that I have. It's worked out really well for me. I have one every day. I stuck with my normal supplements, and in other videos I've talked about supplements and the things that work for me. He has some supplement recommendations in the book, if that's something that would work for you. Dr. Hyman does a really good job also of education. It's a fairly thick book. It's not just a few pages of a template for a 10-day diet. There's a lot of educational pieces in there. He does a really good job of helping with some of the mental side of the diet and understanding why our bodies do what they do. It helped me in a number of different ways. He has themes for each day. So one day might be purely the mental side of the diet. One day might be focused on fatigue. One day might be focused on another element or another challenge that folks encounter when dieting. So I really like that. And each day there's a series of questions. The very first one, how do you feel? How does this make you feel? What's the change from yesterday? What's that looking like? So there's a series of questions. One thing that I found is going back and looking at other days' questions helped me to process some of the things that I was thinking about, some of the things that I was dealing with, some of the challenges, but also some of the successes. And it looked and helped me to compare day by day. I really enjoyed that part. Again, he's got a lot of really good help in the book for shopping lists, for things to think about, how to prep your kitchen, just all kinds of things that are again, it's not just go do this and eat this every day. There's a lot of supplemental information. And as always, with any diet or any type of health professional, anybody in this business is going to recommend exercise. So again, I incorporated, and you've heard me mention in other videos about walking. Walking is a big part of my exercise regimen. But I do some lightweight training, but walking anywhere from 7 to 10,000 steps a day, and that's in anywhere from 3.5 to 5 miles per day. Again, you want to incrementally get into that. If you're not walking that much when you start this diet, and you want to break out and do 3 miles on the first day, that's probably not going to work out very well. So that would be something incrementally to put in, maybe before the diet, or just very, very lightly if you're not used to doing that with the diet. So, and again, that's any health professional will tell you that. I'm not a doctor. and I'm not making any recommendations. But what I am saying is be careful. Don't do too much too quick. He recommends journaling, not only for your progress, but also for what your body's doing. Taking your weight, your blood pressure, your blood glucose, and a number of other things. And I'll share that with you here on the screen as well. But I really enjoyed the journaling part and writing down the answers to those questions. And again, to be able to compare that back and forth, the journaling made that a lot easier. And again, I told you I'm not going to go day by day and go through all the different recipes and what I ate on day 1 versus day 10. But again, some of the things that I kept, the breakfast shake, there's a lot of fish, a lot of chicken, a lot of fresh vegetables. Again, I'm kind of used to that. So that wasn't a big adjustment. It may be an adjustment for you. I want to put that out there and make sure that you understand kind of what the focus is. But again, those are the things that should be in a healthy diet anyway. And then the other thing that really was apparent to me very, very quickly was focus. It's easy to get brain fog, and our diet contributes to that. I truly believe that. And I saw very, very quickly that my focus and my attention was a lot better. Again, I really enjoyed doing this diet. I would highly recommend to do this, again, with consultation of your physician, your health professional. But thank you for being here with us. If you like the video, be sure and click the little thumbs up down there. Please subscribe to the channel. You can ring the little bell and get notified when we add additional content. But thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.